Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Rashmi from greytHR and today's moderator of this session. First and foremost, a warm welcome to one and all, and thank you for joining us today in this exclusive session of Parichay-Ask the Expert. So as you know, our today's discussion is one of those significant and essential topics, that is EPF, nothing but Employee Provident Fund. So before we begin, let's do a little housekeeping on how this session goes on. So for first few minutes, there will be a discussion done on our today's topic with the help of our special moderator and expert, which is then followed by Q&A. So if you have any questions, please type them into the question box in your Zoom control panel. I'll bring them up during the Q&A, try and get answers from our expert today. Also, if you're worried about missing out on any part of our today's session due to some unavoidable reasons, not to worry at all, because currently this session is recorded and will also be shared with all of you soon. So without any further delay, let's get started. So first thing is, a few of you might be wondering, Rashmi, what is this Parichay session all about? I keep hearing about this from greytHR. So dear attendees, to tell you a little bit about greytHR Parichay sessions, these are the leadership webinars that brings together industry leaders on a common platform to discuss the trending HR topics. So under this, we have started a new initiative called Parichay-Ask the Expert session. So these sessions are intended to have one-on-one interaction with industry leaders and subject matter experts who would speak on a specialized topic. So at greytHR, we believe this provides our attendees a unique opportunity to meet, interact, and get their queries answered directly by the expert. So in our today's session, we have our expert, Mr. K. Narayana, who is going to give us a lot of details about Employee Provident Fund. And also, we have our special moderator, Ms. Bhuvana Anand, who will help us understand what is this Provident Fund all about and also contribute towards the discussion. Now, to talk about the topic, the today's session's important topic, that is, how is EPF, right? So everyone will be like, Rashmi, I know about EPF, so there's nothing to worry. But many of us find it very difficult to understand, right? So here we go. Today's topic, EPF, can be as simple as ABC. That is, you get to learn everything that you must know about Employee Provident Fund. Now, to tell you more about Employee Provident Fund, that's our EPF, it is one of the most popular and promising tools for investment as well as for retirement planning. All of us agree with this, right? So it is a welfare scheme brought into force to secure a better future for employees. And also, this falls under the Employees Provident Funds and Miscellaneous Act 1952. And as we all know, it is applicable pan-India, right? So let's get started. I think I'm getting into too many technical details now. So let's hand it over to our experts today of the session. First of all, I would like to introduce our special moderator for the evening, Ms. Bhuvana Anand, the Senior Executive Legal of greytHR Software Private Limited. To tell you more about Bhuvana, she's a lawyer by profession, and Bhuvana has worked with reputed multinational companies for more than a decade. So with an experience in corporate legal domain, handling technology and data protection laws. So she's a certified information privacy professional, which is from globally recognized International Association of Privacy Professionals, that is IAPP. She currently heads the legal desk of greytHR Software, dealing with the in-house legal requirements, contracts management, and content development relating to employment laws. So Bhuvana, we are very glad to have you in this session. Welcome to this session.
Thanks a lot, Rashmi. You made my work very easy by briefing about the EPF Act. I'm really glad and with immense pleasure, I'm taking this privilege to introduce our Honorable Chief Guest, Mr. Narayana, the retired Additional Central PF Commissioner. Namaskara, sir.
Namaskar.
Thank you very much for joining us to impart some knowledge to all of us gathered here. Friends, as we all know that as an organization, we all have to comply with the laws relating to employment and labor. Amongst them all, the biggest one, which many of us worry about, is the PF, the Employee Provident Fund, and the miscellaneous provisions related there, which covers the PF, the pension scheme, the employee deposit linked insurance, and the related rules. Today, we have one of the most experienced persons as a guest speaker here. He's retired additional Central PF Commissioner who carries 25 years of experience in managing the social security compliance, the benefits delivery, which involves a lot of complex processes, forensic audits, and adjudications to ensure the PF related compliances are in place. Moreover, in his early career, he has dealt with the Central Bureau of Investigation, overseeing cases relating to bank frauds, anti-corruption. Also, he's been a part of Debts Recovery Tribunal, adjudicating and executing the debt recoveries of the banks and financial institutions. Post his retirement, with full enthusiasm and energy, is actively contributing to the society as a passionate legal practitioner and as a registered insolvency professional as well. It's really very inspiring, sir. I'm very glad, more than glad, I should say, to be a part of this webinar, to interact with you and learn some more and gather a lot of knowledge. We are greedy, more than greedy to learn from you here in a short span of time. So let's have some quick conversation here, friends. Though we all know, every one of us, as Rashmi said, know the basics of the PF, like 20 or more employees required, where the organization has 20 or more employees to deduct the PF. There has to be a contribution. All these things we all know. No, we are not getting into that. But from the organization perspective, sir, what are the critically essential records that you find the organizations are have to maintain but missing to maintain, due to which they fall into trouble practically?
Good evening, everybody. Thanks, Ms. Anand, for such a wonderful introduction. I've been in the field for quite some time, and I'm sure many of the participants would have come across or met me across the table while I was there in the service. It's been a long journey, and now post-retirement on a different aspect, you can say a different role. I am enjoying that, as she said, that it was my passion to practice law. So I enjoy doing that. Sorry, this is one. Let's start with that. As she said, that what exactly? See, the big funniest part of EPF and MP Act is that is one of the most, you can say, a draconian law in the labor law area, and it's, you can say, kind of POTA in labor laws. Means the provisions are pretty draconian. Unfortunately, if you go through the entire act or scheme anywhere, there is no mention of what are the documents to be maintained under EPF Act. There's no. The law does not, EPF Act does not expect you to maintain any of the records. What we do is, since there are no provisions, we always take support of records being maintained under other laws. For example, what is that we need to ensure that the compliance is good? First and foremost, we need to ensure that the employment strength, that person is employed or not. So we need to get into the HR details, HR records. What records are required to be maintained under labor laws? Those are the same records we would ask you, whether it is your attendance register, whether it is your what you call salary and wage register, bonus registers, gratuity registers, all these. Those specific laws expect you to maintain certain records. We only borrow those records. Based on those records, we come to the figures which you need to be paying. Because there is no record as such prescribed under EPF Act. But there are other laws which expect you to maintain those records. We use those records to enforce or ensure the compliance under our act. Basic, most important records are your attendance, salary, wage, and the balance sheet, P&L account dealing with salary, wages, and wherever that particular breakup of your staff related expenses are there. Those are the areas which we look and look back with reference to the records which support those entries in the books of accounts. The biggest challenge is in cases of contract labor.
Yes.
The biggest challenge comes there because you maintain a record, you issue a contract, and you pay a bill on a lump sum basis. You do, the burden of maintaining certain records then shift to the contractor. So that's where the whole problem starts, because you would, okay, in normal service industries, yes, you hire workers, but there are some industries you engage him for a particular job, and the job is a total on a turnkey basis. You are not able to identify what is the labor component in that, what is the material component in that, what is the any other components involved, tax components and all that. It comes as a basket. You say you would pay 1 lakh total for this work. There is no specified how many people are to be engaged or what is the wages to be paid to those guys who are engaged. And there's no way you have any control over that. That guy may be able to get it done by 1 person or 10%. You only specify this work has to be done in this many days and for this cost. And you also probably specify the standard of materials to be used. So these are the cases where a lot of challenges and disputes between the employers and the organization come. Because the employer says this is a material-based job, the labor, we don't have any labor records. And the contractor says, I have done on a what you call work basis, so I have not maintained any record. But all of you should know that being HR professionals, Contract Labor Act. So, and the definition of employee under EPF Act. If you read the definition of employee under EPF Act, it's a very, very wide. It is so widely worded that anybody under the earth can be made to be an employee of yours.
Yes.
What does the definition say? Is there any person engaged for wages directly or indirectly by or through a contractor in or in connection with business of the establishment? So look how wide the definition is. He need not be your direct employee, he can be an indirect employee. He need not be a contractor employee, he can be, contractor himself can be an what you call a worker. So all these put together pose a lot of challenge when it comes to contract compliances. Most of the disputes come there. For regular employees, we don't find such a great challenge in ensuring compliance. The problems are only with the contract related. Most corporates down south, the compliance, I would say that being in the organization, compliance is generally good. But I can't say the same about certain other geographical locations in the country, but at least having looked into in Bangalore, most industries are pro compliance with Provident Fund. So that makes our job easier.
So,
Anything? That's how it is.
In some organizations, to keep some employees on a temporary basis, they have the habit of labeling them as a contract employee. Like they engage the contract employees as consultant or of professional service, but their role will be similar to that of an existing employee. So in this case, they will pay, say, let's say they are paying a fixed remuneration and deducting a professional tax. But what is the legal position of such contract employment?
Basically, as I said, you look at the definition of employee. When you split up the definition, please, as a legal professional, you will understand what are the ingredients of the definition.
Yes.
What does it say? First word says any person.
Right.
Second person, engaged. He has to be engaged. For what? For wages. Doing what? In or in connection with business of the establishment. Directly or indirectly. So is it anywhere mentioned temporary, part-time? No. Employee-employer relationship has to be clear.
So in that case, they have to abide by the PF contribution.
Yes, if you mean just naming him as consultant will not absolve you of your responsibility to pay. We look at the nature. See, a consultant is engaged for what is he? He's paid a fee. Fee is a consideration. Okay, you're calling it fee. It's basically wages.
Yes.
Why are you paying him? You are paying him because he's serving he's working in or in connection with business of your establishment. The biggest problem with all these consultant related engagements where people don't want to engage, because consultants, generally those who are engaged as consultants are paid fees more than 15K. All right. There's hardly any consultant who comes and works you for less than 15,000. So once they're beyond the cap, we are least bothered. If you want to pay PF or voluntarily pay, otherwise we're not interested. If Provident Fund statutory application is for an employee only, those who draw wages up to 15,000. Beyond 15,000, it's the magnanimity of the employer, if he wants, and also willingness of the employee, whether he wants to be subject to Provident Fund or not. So that cap is a very important matter when it comes to even coming at these, thinking about these definitions. I don't think there are anybody engaging any consultants who will be paid around 15,000 or 50,000 or less than that per month. And most consultants are not engaged on a monthly basis. They are engaged on, they don't need to come to office. The terms of engagement. We look at the contract. If the contract says that even a consultant, he has to come to office every day, he has to report to XYZ, he will be supervised, so and so, he is entitled to salary, he is entitled to leaves, he is entitled to bonus. All these will be the terms and conditions specified in his contract. At the end of the day, you may say he is a service provided and he is given a GST. That not just because you pay GST does not absolve you of being a what you call
exempt you from the compliances.
Yes, this problem comes with reference to expat workers, because here the expat workers, the international workers are the only employees in the system who are liable to pay Provident Fund irrespective of the salary. There is no ceiling for them, and they have to pay on their full salary. So that's where these what you call nomenclatures start popping up, saying that he's only a consultant, he's a service he's only a service manager, or so and so, as an independent contractor. They come up with a lot of excuses for not complying with that. But we look at the contract, basically, the engagement. The contract will be the base by which we will be able to determine whether a person is having an employee-employer relationship.
Okay.
Based on that, we come to we take a call on that.
Okay. In case if something has gone wrong like that, where they're supposed to comply but they have not, how do we fix that error? Like
one, that's what I call PF Act is Draconian.
Yeah.
The reason is the day you cross 20 and that person fits into the definition of employee, it is the management's responsibility to comply. It is not the vigilance of the EPF organization to call you and tell you, look, you are coverable, you are not engaged. It's not mandated by law that I have to tell you that so-and-so has to be complying and is not complying. You just can't take an excuse saying that PF we have been complying so many years, PF department did not tell us that we are not complying in respect of this person, that person. It's not the responsibility of the PF department to tell you. As a law-abiding citizen, there is a law. You will have to comply with the law. That the responsibility to comply. It's like an example. There's a red light. Do you expect police to every time stand at the red light and tell there is a red light, you can't cross it? No. You know red light means you have to stop. Now, similarly, the PF says you cross 20, your employees are within this definition, you have to pay PF. And the funniest part is there is no limitation for this. I can go back to 1952 if you're not paid PF from 1952.
Okay, that's
okay.
What I'm asking.
That is the most terrifying part. And the next attendant consequences are the amount of damages you end up paying when you don't pay at the right time. They're phenomenal. You end up paying through your nose if you don't pay on time.
Okay.
they are very steep. The damages and the interest are very steep. So one needs, it's like if you are liable to contribute and you're not contributing, it's like sitting in a metered taxi. The meter is running, irrespective. Till you get down, the meter keeps running. So you end up paying whatever is in the meter when you start complying. So better be careful. I would always say that EF is one not to meddle with and not to forget about.
Yes, hope the friends are noting it down here.
And another advice I would always give is a lot of people adopt shortcuts. Like there could be some guys comes and say, I will get sorted out your issue now, right now, for whatever reasons, things don't happen. You are happy. All they can give you a temporary fix. Nobody can give you a permanent fix. So anybody who assures you that he gets your problem solved, is only giving you a temporary fix as long as he is in chair. I don't think there will be any officer across the table who will write and give that you are not liable for this. So if somebody says they can give you a particular benefit or they can see that you're not liable, please take it in writing so that you will have a document to protect yourself saying that you were advised by, or there was an order passed saying that I was not liable to pay.
So now, as per this last year income tax notification, the PF accounts had to be split into two accounts with effect from 1st of April 2022 to segregate the taxable and the non-taxable contributions. That is more than 2.5 lakhs.
This year, there has been, I think, Finance Ministry has. I heard it in the budget, but I don't know if the circular has yet been issued or not. It's been enhanced to 5 lakhs.
They say the notification says that more than 2.5 lakh annual contribution. In that case, so with effect from the 1st of April 2022.
That 2.5 cap will be for 1 year from April last year to this year.
Yes.
Now the cap is going to be 5 lakhs. So beyond 5 lakhs, you will have to maintain the same separate account. Beyond 5 lakhs would be a taxable component.
Okay, so there has to be two.
I would advise that better don't comply beyond 5. Don't have any accounts beyond 5, so that you don't need to maintain the separate account.
Okay.
But still somebody wants to get, despite the tax liability, they feel still it is worth investing in provident fund. Yes, in that case, then you will have to do. They have to be maintained separately. The returns would have to be maintained separately, probably. Yeah, that EPF is not bothered. The reason is their EPF is not involved. That is between you and the income tax department. Your employee and the income tax department. When your employee files his returns, he has to segregate these accounts. That what is the amount of interest on his provident fund accounts which was tax free, or what is the interest earned which was taxable, and what is the tax paid on that. The provident fund has no role on that. Whether you pay tax or not is not my responsibility. You pay me any amount, we will take. So it would be the HR and the members' responsibility to ensure that they are tax compliant. That is between you and the member organization and the income tax authorities. PF has no role there. We only say that till this, it is tax free. Beyond that is tax free. How you maintain, how you comply with the tax directions, it's left to the HR and the employee concerned.
There was one question coming up about the UANs, like where they had the organization had employees who were coming, had more than one UAN, the previous UAN and another one UAN. So how that?
Yeah, see, the employee has to go and see that one UAN is closed.
Crossed.
Normally, it happens that the latest UAN is retained, the old UANs are duplicate UANs are cancelled. There is a provision, you need to merge them, get them transferred from one to another, and you can approach the department and they will.
They just have to go to the
there are appropriate, there are sufficient provisions available where you can merge your and cancel one of the UANs. Keep complying with the one.
So the old one or the old UAN will be retained.
Choice is yours.
Okay.
Preferably, you like to retain the current one. Because that is where your contributions are now going. I would suggest that, see, the best way to make your earlier UAN defunct is transfer that provision to the current UAN. In the earlier UAN, there will be no balance and it literally becomes defunct. But it can also be deduplicated. If you request the organization, they will take care of it.
Okay.
There has to be a specific request saying that I have two UANs, one of the UAN needs to be cancelled and the corpus available in that UAN need to be transferred to this.
Sir, as you said, from your experience, what is the common issues that comes under as a dispute to litigation, to the level of litigation, and disputes come up under the PF, let it be a PF for the pension issue or the insurance, the EDLI issues. Like, what are the common things that you note, which we would like to pass on to the friends here, like
disputes? As I said, I started with coming with reference to the compliance. Most people feel that temporary, casual, they have still piece rated part-time workers need not be completed. That common perception under the HR professional saying that guy is engaged only one time in a month. Why do I need to pay a fee? No. The definition is very clear. There is no classification called temporary, part-time, casual, all this. How wages, whether it is paid as a piece wage or monthly wage, you have to pay. So that's where most disputes arise, where you don't pay for certain class of employees saying that they are either trainees or what you call, whatever name you call that, temporary, casual, have engaged in a day or two. All these things. But and there are some, despite all this, there are still some organizations which say that I will not enroll a guy to PF unless he has put in 6 months or unless he becomes a permanent employee. Yeah, or they treat him as a probationer. During probation, they say he's not entitled to PF. All these are they're not correct interpretation of law, and you get into trouble at any point of time when the organization is able to detect consequences will be there. So this is a very, and the second one I said is with reference to the outsourced employees. Most people say that they're contract employees. I'm not liable for that.
Yeah.
But when you read the definition, it says this as a principal employer, it is your responsibility to ensure compliance. Of course, there are, as a legal professional, you know that there is a case law. There are case laws now that which to a large extent redress the grievance of the principal employer, saying that once your contractor has a code number, your responsibility diminishes to a large extent. So my advice to any HR or the compliance professionals who are there is ensure that if you're going to give a contract to anybody, the person to whom you have given contract is having a PF code number and he's complying there. Yeah. At least you ensure that he's having a code number. To that extent, you would be safe. Yeah. If he's not having a code number, then they are indirect employees. So on this platform, I would make it very clear that please ensure that they have a code number. That will be some sort of an insurance or a protection for you against the default by the contract. Otherwise, the default will directly get shifted to you.
So in the case of nominations, which is most important thing.
Yeah.
Due to various reasons, the nomination dates have been extended and still.
I'll come to that. The reason is, yeah, the department is aware of that. There are a lot of grievances on that, and department is in the process of probably upgrading the systems or upgrading both software and hardware to ensure the speed at which the systems are now functioning, which is a concern for many people because they're not able to file their e-nomination because the system is too slow. It takes a lot of time for even employees to get their nominations. And after spending so much time also, they're not sure whether it goes through or not. I think the higher ups in the department are aware of it, but as industry champions, you should take up with the top management of the organization through the industry bodies, saying that these type of problems should get redressed faster so that employees don't suffer because of the systems are not supporting you. in the compliance.
Yeah, that's true. But in case if the nominations are not done for any reasons whatsoever, what are the consequences? The claim ultimately, what happens to that claim if something mishap, something untoward happens?
There's nothing like that. As far as EPF Act is concerned, nomination is a requirement. It is. It does not say that without nomination you cannot. There are provisions in the Act says that what to do, how to settle if there is no nomination. Yeah, there are specific provisions. A person cannot be denied his claim if there is no nomination.
Exactly.
It's not that. But why I say that you should have nomination, ease of your settlement.
Fast.
If you have a nomination, we wouldn't have disputes at the time of settlement.
Yeah.
And your money, you want to know who we should get. With respect of pension, there is no problem at all because the nominee has to be within the definition of family. It cannot be outside. But for provident fund, you could nominate anybody else. That's your choice.
Okay.
For pension, there is a there's a system within which you can nominate. You can't nominate outside your family.
So basically, it's just to quickly get your claims settled. It's better.
Second, nomination is a very, very important document in respect of single, means unmarried or single person later, either divorced or whatever it is, because you need to have a nominee for your pension. Before marriage, I would I would request all those employees before marriage have a nomination in place, because they can nominate their father, mother to receive the pension. If they don't nominate, then again the same hassles. It goes in a different footing. Having nomination helps settlement of pension claims faster, and the disputes in the pension claims would come down. Because pension is the only area where there seems to be some delay in settlement claims. So that's only because of your nomination. Once the nominations are done,
it'll be better. You are in a sale.
And for filing a nomination, if a person is married or unmarried, if he's unmarried, age is not a criteria. Because I saw one of the query coming up on the screen saying that he's aged above 35 and what is it? Nomination has got no relation to age. Everybody at any age has to.
I think there are questions piling up, so I will not take much time now.
You can go ahead and start picking up individual questions.
Do you please start with the questions as the.
And there was one more question which I saw. I think this was relating to an international expat worker saying that there will be no Aadhaar for his family. For expat workers, Aadhaar is not required. They need to file only the details with reference to their passports and whatever.
Yes.
Aadhaar is exempted for expat workers.
Yeah, Indian employees. Over to you, Rashmi.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Bhuvana. Sir, we can already see the questions are flooding in. So we'll open up for Q&A round now. So dear attendees, if you have any questions, please start putting across them in the Q&A tab of Zoom control panel. And I would request our esteemed guest, Mr. Narayana, to help us with his expertise by answering these questions.
Yeah,
so sir, I'll be taking up the questions one by one.
Yeah.
So the first question here we have is from one of our attendees. I think it's the basic question which all of us need to be aware of. And the question is how to change the basic inputs from employer login, like name, date of joining, and other KYC details.
Yeah, I think there should be no difficulty. Now employee has been given this thing, and now the responsibility has now been shifted to the employee to change all this. The responsibility of employer is toned down to a large extent because there is no attestation required for when you are filing these online changes. The provisions are only where there is certain differences where you need to give a physical copy. A joint declaration is required where the difference in date of birth is more than 3 years. That's where you need to file documents in physical form. Otherwise, less than 3 years, I think now online they can file, and employer has no role there. The employee can upload directly, I suppose. Even otherwise, even if it is to be the employer also can upload. There's no, I don't think there is any problem in that. Employers in their login can also change the employees, upload the employees' details. They're available. I think system allows them.
Sure.
I don't think there is any cap on that saying that employer cannot correct the data of their employees. I think in their employee, initially it was only the employers who were doing, only to facilitate the employers, the same facility has now been given. But now what has happened, most employers have shifted that to the employee. They say that, okay, you better do it. Because it's that person who's seeking service, he knows what is the right thing. What his name has to be, what his spouse or parents' names have to be, whether they're correct, whether the date of births are correct. He would be the right person. So now the responsibility is shifted to them. And of course, as an employer, you need to match with the records you are having, because tomorrow if your employment is in some other name and when you are going to raise a claim, of course, now even that responsibility are removed. The employer can raise a claim directly. But what I would request all the members while in service ensure that name, father's name, gender, and date of birth are perfect in all the documents they have, whether it is Aadhaar, whether it's PAN, whether it's passport. Please ensure that not only for Provident Fund related issues, I am telling going forward in our country, as you get into the digital mode, any mismatch in any of these documents, somewhere the other will affect you. So please ensure that you'll have the same name in the same sequence in all the identification documents. Not saying that only with reference to Provident Fund. I would say that this would be what will be a requirement for income tax purpose, GST purpose, or you go anywhere. Even nowadays, there are employers who insist that your Aadhaar, your STEM certificate Aadhaar or your degree certificate and Aadhaar and PAN should tally. And the bank account. Ensure that all are in the same sequence so that the service becomes easier. It's not that it can't be corrected, but I would say that don't wait for the last minute to get it corrected, because at that time you may be needing the money urgent. And this would probably cause some delay in getting your fund back.
Yeah, sure, sir. And the next question is, sir, is EPF applicable for 1-day manpower?
What? I didn't get.
Is EPF applicable for 1-day manpower?
Yeah. I started my talk by defining employee. Does it say the location or period of employment?
No, sir, no such
No.
details.
So the law is very clear on that. I know it is impractical, but it is, even if you have 1 day. See, what does the definition say? Has he been engaged in or in connection with work of your establishment, and has he paid wages? If he has been paid wages and he has worked for you, it doesn't matter whether you work for 1 day or any day. Most people have that, but I do understand practically I have seen that most of the people don't comply for anybody who's engaged for less than a month period. I have seen, but it's very, if somebody really wants to make your life miserable, they can. So I would advise, be done with it.
Sure, sir. Yeah.
Pay and be done with it. There are very few people who engage somebody for a day. This is an excuse taken by many people that he has come only for 1 day, he comes only for 3 days, 5 days. No. Anybody less, and I don't think PF department also calls up anybody and says that this person has worked for 1 day, 2 days, you pay PF. No. Legally, yes, you have to pay. But most employers use this as an excuse for not paying PF to guys who are very short-term employees. For example, somebody is engaged for 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months. You tend to say that then you come into that bracket of saying that he's for 1 day, so PF need not be paid. No, law says you have to pay. If you don't pay, yeah, you are lucky as long as the department does not ask you. But when they ask you, you may end up paying. It's in the nature of the contract, nature of the work. What is the amount paid?
Sure, sir. Sir, talking about wages brings us to another question from one of our attendees. So the question is, can we fix minimum PF of 1,800 without considering the basic salary?
What, 1,800, that means you're taking as 15,000 as the salary and fix 1,800. Okay, that's the question.
Yes, sir. So irrespective of basic salary, can we have 1,800 as the
You
PF?
want to do it, PF department will not have any objection, only you should have an objection for that. Because there are questions which says that PF is payable in what? Basic and DA, that's what they say. But please read the latest judgment. Except HRA. There are some negative allowances, except those, all other allowances you'll have to pay.
Okay.
So within 15,000, whatever, except HRA, you can have HRA, which will not be part of contribution for PF. Can. But I'll give you one example where minimum wages is itself 15,000. Assuming that today minimum wages of an employee comes to 15,000, then you cannot break it up again. Because minimum wage notification in Karnataka has got two components only, minimum wage and DA. Minimum wage and DA put together, and you know PF Act expects you to pay PF on both minimum wage and DA. Now you cannot say that my basic wage again is having a part HRA. There was a judgment, a lot of people try to take shelter under that, but I would advise, please don't try to do that. If at least on minimum wages and the DA which has been prescribed, the government pay PF on that. And it does not mean that you can restrict it to that if your other allowances, HRA and all, except HRA, on all other allowances you need to pay PF. Now, earlier they would say only PF, what you call basic and DA, and all other allowances were excluded. No, sorry. The most commonly used HR salary structure you call is variable allowance, special allowance. These two allowances in whatever. What I say is, why do HR professionals term this as other allowances or special? Because they are not able to fit those money into any of these components which are not attracting PF. That's why they call it. At the end of the day, other allowances, special allowances, variable allowances, DA allowance, in whatever nature you call, except HRA, all are liable to PF.
Yeah, sure, sir. Sir, there's a next question from one of our attendees. So the question is, if an employee starts his EPF from the year 2004 and keeps changing the company, can he get pension after the year 2024? That is after completion of 20 years in many companies?
I am giving you an example. There's no, the requirement for pension is only 10 years under EPF scheme. He need not work for 20 years. He may work in 5 companies. The moment he crosses 10 years of total service, he's entitled to a pension. The only thing is he will get pension from an X date. He will not get pension immediately. The pension, he is entitled to a pension if he's not in employment after 50 years, or if he continues in employment, he will get a pension after the age of 58. So the basic requirement is to be eligible for pension, one should have a 10 years of service. It need not be continuous. Please, again, it need not be continuous. So, for assuming you work for 2 years in one company, without withdrawing the money, you wait, you join another company after a year or 2. Then you start a PF account, get this money transferred to that. The break does not stop his service. This earlier 4 years get added to the current 4 years or 5 years or 6 years, and then he's eligible for pension. Most people have this notion that if there is a break, I lose my service. No, there is no such. As long as you don't withdraw, as long as the money remains, the pension account remains, you can get it transferred. As and when you join, the service gets revived. For example, you work for 4 years now, you take a break for 2 years, you come back and join, then you get the PF pension account, leave the pension account without settling, come back after 6 years, after 2 years break, start a new account, get your pension account transferred to that, the previous 4 years gets added, and your fresh service, your pension service continues thereafter. The total service needed for pension is 10 years, not 20. So the gentleman saying not why 24, he is eligible for pension in 2004. If he he is eligible to get pension, but he will not get pension from 2004 unless his age is greater than 50 or he has completed 58 years. If he wants to have pension after 58 while not in service, he will get what is called a reduced pension. For every year of less than 58, there's a deduction of 4%. If he takes 8 and 8, 4, 32% will be deducted if he starts getting. If his pension, whole pension would be about 1,000 rupees. So if he takes at the age of 50, say 330 or 320 will get deducted from his pension. He will only get 680. I hope that makes it clear.
So I think, dear attendee, it is not just about the year or the change of the company, but there are many other factors that can influence this. So I hope the answer is clear now. Thank you for this, sir. And our next question is, how to withdraw PF if you had it before 2014? So they have given a scenario here. I think this is a special case, so I'll read it out. So employee is based out in Kolkata, but the head office is in Delhi. Also, if there is a discrepancy about the notice period, sir, where the establishment disagree to process the withdrawal of the same, what are the consequences? How this acts?
First of all, the employer has no right, notice or no notice. He has no business to stop his PF. That's one of the reasons why the settlement of PF has been delinked from the employer's consent. Now that employee, even now, even if he's prior to 2014, he can generate his own UN account. He will not get his PF. He can generate his UN account and use the same UN to link with his Aadhaar and PF, Aadhaar and other KYC documents. Once he links and uploads these documents directly, without his employer's intervention, he can get his PF. This is one point. Second, if an employer refuses to process his claim for any reason, the employee can make a complaint to the Provident Fund authorities. The employer can be prosecuted in a court of law for refusing to attest a claim. Of course, now the attestation is no longer such a big issue because that has been delinked, where employer attestation is not required when you are applying online. That's one of the reasons why we encourage people to have Aadhaar linked UN account, which dispenses the requirement of employer. Even the date of exit was earlier the prerogative of the employer to add the date of exit. Now even that has been given to the employee. He himself can key in the date of exit. And there is no the dispute about your notice will just be thrown out of the window there.
Sure. Thank you, sir. And this next question, sir, I'm sure half of this is already answered. It's a sort of repeat question, but there are a few extra components in this question. So I'll just take it up. So the question is it mandatory to have 1,800 as minimum PF contribution? Because heard that we need to add other components other than HRA and calculate 12% on that as PF.
Yes. There is no such, the 1,800 is, it's a simple calculation. What is the statutory cap for salary? 15,000. So statutory cap for Provident Fund is 1,800. And if somebody is drawing a salary below 15,000, you cannot ask him to pay 1,800 PF. There's no such thing. If a salary is 15,000 and his entire 15,000 is shown as basic and DA, then 1,800 comes. Suppose it is 15,000, but you have a component called HRA within the permissible limit. To that extent, it is excluded. Only, for example, you end up paying 2,000 rupees as HRA. You take that your basic salary is 10,000. You say 40% is what? 40% of 10,000 will be 4,000. So 4,000 will be HRA. So you still have 1,000, 1,000 will go. So on 11,000 rupees, you can pay PF and still comply with the provision of law. Nobody can question you that. But my request is you better pay at least on 12,000 to avoid any further questions on PF. If there is no such law, I'm saying that it's my opinion. But law says allowances, basic DA. If your basic and whatever is a basic and DA in the 15,000, if it is within the legal framework, you can pay this thing only on those two components, because there are no other components on your salary. If there are other components, then you will have to go whether these components are exempt from PF or not. In the exempt category, there, to my knowledge, there are only two. One is your transport allowance subject to a limit, and HR. These are the only two limits. No other. No other. So if minimum you need to pay PF would be at least on about 11,000 something it comes. So I would say round it off to 12,000 and pay. The other 3,000 will take care of your other two, HRA and others. Because HRA, the income tax permits 40% in some cities and less than 40, some other percentage. It's again, we take the law from the income tax, what could be, because in PF there is no ceiling that what could be, what part of your basic could be your HRA. There is no such law in the PF Act. But then what, when there is no law, we go to the, what are the exemptions for HRA in income tax? In income tax, it is 40% or 50% in metros and 40% in other cities. If I don't know, that's subject to clarification.
Okay, thank you, sir. So next question is again scenario based. So here our attendee says we have recently registered on EPF portal and we are eligible for ABRY scheme and have also submitted the declaration as well and registered the employees under ARBY scheme. So the question now is when they are uploading the ECR, do they have to include those employees in the ECR who are eligible for this mentioned scheme?
Yeah, see, one thing is ECR has to be included for all. That you have no right to adjust it. For any of the reimbursements, for any PMPRY, all these schemes which the government is coming up, the first requirement is for you to pay. You pay what you are entitled. If your documentation is right, you get an automatic reimbursement in PMPRY. I'm not sure whether, as on date, whether PMPRY is valid, because it was for a specific period mentioned. It was given up to 2019-20. Afterwards, whether it was extended or not, I'm not sure. Whether PMPRY is still available exemption. I can get it clarified, but right now I'm not sure about that.
Okay. Sure, sir. So I think that helps for now. And I'll go to the next question, sir. For few employees, EPS contribution is not done. So the whole amount is added to PF account itself. So what is the solution?
What was the EPF salary?
Those details are not given here.
See, the rule is if the salary is below 15,000 after September 2014, if an employee who has joined after 2014, if his salary is below 15,000, only then he is entitled to become an EPS member. Right? If the salary of the employee is greater than 15,000, he is not entitled to become a member of pension account. Therefore, the entire 24% will go to his PF. Remember the catchword. If his salary is beyond the threshold, starting salary. Second condition there for such cases, he should not have been a PF member anytime prior to joining this organization. Today, he may join you with 20K, but he was working somewhere and he was already a PF member. Then, irrespective, even if you are offering him 1 lakh here, you have to statutorily make him a provident fund member up to the statutory limit of 15,000, and he would also be entitled to be a pension member. Hope that satisfies.
Yes. Thank you so much, sir. And the next question, I think this is the most common question most of the establishments have, especially the small firms. So the question is, if labor contractors don't have laborers more than 10, then is it mandatory to that particular contractor to register for PF?
See, I'll tell you one thing. I gave this clarification. I think somebody who had heard me in the starting.
Yeah.
It is not mandatory for him. In your interest, you ensure he takes a code number. Otherwise, what happens? Suppose that the contractor is having less than 20 employees. and you are engaging him as a contractor, then you will have to enroll his employees in your PF code number. If you're willing to do that, you don't insist for a code number. If you're not willing to do that, then the contractor can obtain a code number even if he has one employee. It is called on a voluntary basis, he can get a code number. But if the employer wants to be safe, ensure that your contractor has a code number. Don't look at number of employees. All contractors will come and tell, I have 1, 2, 3 employees, so I don't need to get registered. Okay, then you enroll those 1, 2, 3 people who are engaged with you in your account. Okay, he is not statutorily required to be registered. But then the responsibility of complying for the employees engaged by that gentleman in your company shifts to you. If you're willing to take that responsibility, yes, go ahead. PF department will be more than happy for that because it is easier for us to deal with the principal employer than the contractor.
Okay, sure. So the next question is, if an employer is not depositing the PF amount despite the amount being deducted, what action can be taken?
Yeah, first of all, you know he has not deposited. You as an individual, you have a right to go to the local concerned jurisdiction police station and file a complaint under 406-409 IPC for criminal breach of trust. Okay, it's a criminal misappropriation. IPC specific explanation 2 says that PF is not depositing of PF amount deducted from a wages is a criminal offense punishable under IPC. Not only that, you can make a complaint to the Provident Fund authorities. They also have a duty to file an FIR with the police station for the total amount deducted and not paid. So you have both. You can report to the Provident Fund, or if you are willing, you can individually also file a complaint with the concerned police station against the management. Most employees don't want to do because they don't want to fight the employer. So the best way is submit the details to the Provident Fund authorities. They will file a police case against it. At least this will, using this as a threat, your PF would get deposited. It's a criminal offense. Non-depositing of amount deducted from a wages is very serious offense under PF Act, and everybody takes it pretty seriously. All you need to give them the information and the requisite whatever. At least you give the information, they will collect the data. They will collect the evidence.
Sure. Okay. So the next question is about expats. So the question is HRA for expats exempt from PF?
Madam, there is no difference in basic wage definition for expats and Indian workers. The same definition applies to them also. But my experience has been that expats are entitled to not to pay PF on HRA. But if you look at their agreements, most expats are provided with accommodation. What most of the expats do is they take the accommodation. Again, they want to get the salary broken up for HRA part. So how can you have the accommodation as well as HRA? If the person is not provided with an accommodation, yes, he's entitled to the non-payment of PF on HRA. Law does not force you to pay PF on HRA. But of course, subject to the same limit. Whatever basic is there, you cannot increase beyond the permissible tax limit. Their same definition applies to them. The basic wage definition, what is applicable to Indian workers applies to them. Basic wage plus DA is the basic salary on which it has to become. As per Supreme Court, other allowances, all allowances except those which are specifically excluded under the definition are liable to PF Act. And this is not something new. This definition has been upheld by the Supreme Court right from 1960 onwards. It's only our guys or your HR or your legal guys who are trying to interpret it differently and trying to frame all these allowances to take them out of the purview of the PF Act. And now the law has been settled by the Supreme Court. So I don't think there is any scope for any interpretation there.
Okay. So the next question is about the company, sir. So the question is, companies have left or shut down or not been able to contact to employer. In such situations, how to know their PF or UN details or resolve the PF queries?
I didn't get your question, please.
So if the company has been
Please
shut
forgive
down
me.
or
What
something,
happened? Please let me clarify. I'm getting distracted by those questions coming. I try to read the questions on the chat box. I forget to hear what you're saying. So that's
no
what happened
problem,
with the
no
previous.
problem,
Now you
sir.
can tell me. Right.
Yeah. So the question is, if the company has been shut down or something, how can the employee handle this situation? Like if they have any PF queries or they have to get any PF or UN details, how they can reach out? How do they collect?
Who's the custodian of UN today? Employee himself. He should know his UN. If he has access to his UN, he can do everything. Employer intervention is not required. It was in the pre-UN era where if the company shuts down, getting your claim attested, getting your returns filed and all were problems. Now it's not that. And now the return problem is also solved because every month when he pays, the money gets distributed. There is no annual return. Every month an ECR is filed. His money gets credited to his account on a monthly basis. So whatever balance is there on an X date or Y date, he can always have access to that.
Also, there is an SMS alert on the credit as soon as it's credited.
Yes. Now the amount gets deposited, employee gets an SMS alert. He should be vigilant enough saying that if he does not get an SMS alert for a particular month, he should go to the website and check whether contribution has been paid for you or not. It is available. It is an open. There is no code. There is no password required. You can go to the website, click on the establishment search, go to the establishment, click on the challans, open the challan, put your name and see whether your name is there in the ECR or not. If it is not there, he is not paid. And then go to the PF authorities. Send a mail to the PF authorities that this much has been, as per your payslip, this much has been deducted and this has not been paid for the month. I would say on 16th of every month, you can send a mail to EPF saying that my salary was paid, my PF has not been deposited. If it's not deposited by 15th, it's a criminal offense. If it's deducted or not paid, that serious it is, I'm telling you. You can file an FIR on 16th of every month if the amount deducted from your wage is not paid by 15th of month. Such a serious. If you really want to make life miserable to your employer, on 16th morning, you see your PF is not deducted, go to the police station, police is bound to take your complaint.
Okay. Sir, the next question, it is again scenario based. So one of our attendees says, one employee has got the PF benefits till 2011 without UN and have served for 10 years. Post that, the employee has joined a non-PF organization and now he wants to claim the pension scheme. So what can be done?
What is his age?
Not mentioned, sir, here.
Unless he's above 50, he cannot. Or he has attained 58, he has joined another organization after 50. First of all, why no PF in the organization which is working now? What is the reason that there is no PF? Is that company having less than 20 employees? I want to know that because most people are misled by the companies saying that I'm paying you 50,000, so you're not entitled to PF. The fact that he had worked with an earlier establishment where he had PF account makes him eligible to be enrolled even if he is paid 1 lakh. I told you in the beginning. So I need those two variables before I can answer this gentleman. Otherwise, age is a criteria. If he's above 50, he can claim if he wants a reduced pension. If he's above 58, he will get his full pension for 11 years of service. UN, he has to generate. Now, in the EPF organization, no claim is settled without UN. He has the option of generating that UN. Based on that UN, he can make a claim.
Okay, sure. Sir, the next question is about the bonus. So the question is, do we need to deduct PF on statutory bonus?
What did I say about definition of wage? Please read the definition of wage and see. There is a judgment called withdrawal. This has dealt with your incentive bonus and statutory bonus. If it is paid on an annual basis, It's a statutory bonus, not liable. But when you split up and pay on a monthly basis, adding it to the salary, you call it bonus, but it's not bonus. It's some sort of incentive. If it's a statutory bonus, yes. But statutory bonus is very, very specific, only up to a particular percentage. Statutory bonus. Statutory bonus, if it's paid annually, no, not liable. Not liable to PF.
Sure, sir. So the next question, sir. I have a small establishment over 40 employees operating since 4 years. And if they want to start the PF in a minimum contribution, how much minimum amount can they start with, and how is the calculations from both sides?
First of all, he is already violating law because he has not paid PF for 4 years. Right? He started 4 years ago. He himself admits that he's having 40 employees. He's putting himself to a great risk by not complying. And there is nothing called minimum amount. The amount payable is with reference to the salaries he has paid. What is the salary he paid? What is the minimum salary he can pay? It is the minimum wages. He cannot pay less than minimum wages. So on minimum wages for 40 employees for 4 years is the minimum he has to pay. If he is not paid, God help him, waits for the whip from the PF authorities, then he will end up paying huge damages and interest.
So now when if he approach, he has to
pay from 4 years, ma'am.
For all
Yes.
the
Yeah. No excuse.
irrespective of whether those employees are still there.
Doesn't matter, madam.
Totally
If
have to
somebody
pay.
employed for 6 months, he will pay for that. Next month, man who joined for next 6 months, he gets paid. Everybody who has been paid wages in any day after the company employed 20 or more.
Yes.
From that day. He's having 40 today. Probably we don't know when he crossed the statutory limit of 20. From that day, he is liable to pay. And I would advise him to better do it fast, because at some point of time, see, why we would like to say is, see, most people don't understand these scenarios. You could be working in certain dangerous, or you could be working in a high risk category establishments.
Yeah.
Whether it's fire risks or other type of hazards. Assuming that there is an unfortunate incident there, and somebody dies. That time the scrutiny will be so severe, you would come out. Then they would say that the person was entitled to provident fund, you are not paid. And then all legal consequences he will have to face. One, he will end up paying pension to that member, because PF department will not give him pension. So the liability will shift to him. Of course, the PF department will pay, but it will recover the entire PF dues for 4 years for all the employees with interest and damages, and then pay pension to that man. That's a different issue. The employee will not get deprived of his benefit because the employer has defaulted. There are provisions by which if we are able to recover, that money will come back to you. So my advice is, as an employer, the best you can do is at least contribute their provident fund on time. Because you can't guarantee pension for life in case of any unforeseen acts happening, somebody dying. Can you take care of his family for life? No. Leave it to the department, pay the PF, department will take care. So the best social security you can give, I would always advise, is ensure that all your PF up to 15,000, make everybody a PF member, pension member, forget it. That's the best you can do. That's the least you can do as a honest tax-paying citizen.
Sure, sir. Dear attendees, I'm sure a lot of you have questions about PF, and at the same time, we are also running short of time here. I have already eaten up extra 11 minutes of yours. So sorry for that. We are trying our best to ensure we take up maximum questions possible. But if happens
I'm okay. I am here. If there is no cap on your time, I don't mind sitting for another 10-15 minutes, and if we can answer all the queries. So if I'm okay with that.
Yeah, so we'll take a couple of more questions and then wrap up the session. So one of such question is the attendee has this scenario-based question again. It's about the employee. So an employee date of joining is in the year March 2021, and he's above the cap limit of 15K and has no previous PF account in the organization. So the current organization didn't enroll him in PF while he joined. So now the employee would like to enroll in PF and organization agreed to enroll him. In this
Yes.
case, what will be the date of joining to show in the PF portal?
He will join only when the employer agrees. Date of joining will be the same, but date of it will be only a voluntary contribution above. He can always say that his date of joining will be the date on which he joined, but he was not enrolled to PF. He's first he has to go to the PF authorities and take a permission for getting. No, he's above the statutory limit. There is a statutory requirement that you need to file an option that you want to contribute on salaries beyond 15,000, and the employer is also willing. There is a form. They'll have to go to the PF, fill up the form, and once that approval comes, from that date he can start contributing. In the form, it would be specifically mentioned from which date he wants to be enrolled, and it is not his wish, his employer from which date he is willing to pay. Okay, it's a joint, it's a voluntary contribution, so both have to agree that we will pay from this particular date. Give a declaration and start complying from that date.
Sure. And next question, sir. How about the employees who come as an intern for a short term, whether PF is applicable for them?
I gave you a definition. What would you see for intern? Do you pay salary? Do you pay salary? It's a gray area, I'm telling you.
Yes.
For most people, if I say he's not liable to PF, you will enjoy. You have 20 employees, 10 will be interns. Permanently, you will have 10 interns. So
it's like unpaid interns, paid interns.
Each is subjective. You look at
Yeah.
the nature of engagement. Like you're going to engage somebody, you are engaging employee and naming him an intern, we can catch you. But if there is a genuine intern, for example, a college refers.
Yes.
Somebody comes from a college reference, who's studying in a college, comes as an intern. They agree. We give them
For a short stint.
For short stint and college specified. The project is mentioned. He is not going to be used as a sweat, employee, where he is made to slog without being paid for it. He's sent there to learn something, not to work for him. In the process, he may work, but he should not be working as a substitute for somebody. There again, employee-employer relationship is what we start looking at. Intern, yes, he's not liable to be made because he's not an employee. He's come for a study from an educational institute.
Okay, sure. So I think that's pretty much.
There
clear.
was one question which I would like to answer. I saw that on the chart, it is relating to the death. Somebody had questioned that if a person dies, even if he dies from home, I said the place of death is not the criteria for payment of pension. All he needs to have is a live pension account. He should be contributing PF member at the time of death. That's all. And not only that, even if he is away from service, there's a limit up to a particular period. Even if he is not in employment during that period, but his pension account is still not withdrawn, he would be eligible. The family would be covered under the pension scheme. Place of death is no criteria.
Sure. Sir, since we are already talking about pension, there's one question here. What are the EPS benefits if an employee completes 10-year continuous service?
Yeah, he is entitled to a pension after he completes 10 years of service. Here is not, see, it's not continuous. I already told you not continuous. It is contributory service. In a 20-year period, if he has contributed 10 years to the pension account, he is eligible. See, there's nothing called continuity for pension account. I could contribute for 2 years, stop for 2 years, then again contribute for 2 years, then again stop, again contribute. total service during the time, but all the PF accounts should not have been withdrawn. Pension account should not have been withdrawn. Then the total pension account cumulative is more than 10 years is eligible to pension. Contributory period is important. It is not the continuous. It is not the service. It is the contributory service that is important. Please underline that word. For 10 years, if you have paid contribution to the EPS account, you are entitled to pension.
So another question is about PF remittance. So the question is, if an employer delays in remitting the PF contribution, will it affect the employee to get the interest?
No. Till the date of settlement, he will get interest. Only post 58, there is a cap up to 36 months. Earlier, there was a cap for non-contributing account, interest was not being paid. Now, only after the age of 58, somebody has retired. For that also, up to 3 years, you would get interest. Beyond that, you won't get interest. Anytime you will get.
Sure. And another question related to remittance, sir. In case if an employee joins without full date of birth details in Aadhaar, UAN cannot be generated. So for those kind of employees, how do we remit the monthly contribution?
You cannot. Now, post last September, the law has been made. They have made it very clear that it will be your responsibility. You will not onboard an employee unless you have complete details. If you onboard and if you don't pay PF, as and when you pay PF, you will pay right from the date when it was due. And for the period of delay, you end up paying damages and interest. As an employer, that is your responsibility. So as HR professionals, onboard employees with complete details. Do not onboard unless you have Aadhaar linked UAN. Do not give an offer of appointment unless you are able to generate an Aadhaar linked UAN. That's my advice to all HR, to make your life easier subsequently. Otherwise, your life will become difficult.
Sure, sir. So next question is about joint declaration form. So this attendee, Mr. Praneeth, I guess, has asked this question repeatedly. So I'm just taking up Praneeth here. Why is the joint declaration form still in physical mode and through online, sir?
See, this is actually done for certain what you call security reasons. See, up to 3 years, the organization is willing to take online the date of birth, because any changes in date of birth entails additional liability on the department. Now, the department needs to take precautions, because there are guys who will come up and say that my date of birth, there is a variation in my date of birth for 10 years, 15 years. Now you can imagine, if I change the date of birth by 10 years or 15 years, a guy will get pension for last 15 years. So the department has to be careful about that. So up to 3 years, the department has been liberal. Up to 1 year, they're not even in asking documents. They're just taking your Aadhaar as the proof and clearing it. So between 1 and 2 years, they're asking you online documentation. Beyond 3 years is all they're asking you, I think, joint declaration with proper documentation. See, if the date of birth variation is more than 3 years, one need to explain physically. Because online documentation sometimes are subject to certain checks, which may not be possible for the department to ensure that the date of birth is correct. Problem in joint declaration is not only about date of birth. There are places where, why do we ask for physical copies? There are cases where there is a total change. Your name is what? Rashmi today? You're contributing. You have documentation. You submitted PF. Your PF department records what you have submitted to Rashmi. Tomorrow somebody comes and says you are Bona. And online you give me some document. But how am I going to satisfy that Bona and Rashmi are one and the same? It's not that somebody wants to take away Bona's, Rashmi's money in the name of Bona. So that's the reason you need to, I'm giving you a small example. Suppose there is a variation in a bank account. Would you be able to withdraw your money? Tell me. You are having a bank account in name of Rashmi here. You are having another bank account in the name of Bhuvna here. Now, can both accounts be merged in bank?
No, you have to produce all the required documents to support that.
Yeah, that's the reason why the department insists on that joint declaration where employer is made, because employer is given a responsibility to verify and certify that what your employee is declaring is true and correct. Tomorrow, if something goes wrong, we will come and hold the employer responsible. I am not responsible. I will recover that any overpayment made from you as an employer. That's the reason we want the joint declaration, and that too in physical copy. Me means now I'm no longer with the department, I say department. I still that not gone out, sir. I am part of the department, right?
So again, we are running short of time, sir. So I'll just take last two questions for the day. And the first question now among the last two questions is very important, and most of them have this question in their mind. What if an employee has two PF account numbers?
Merge. Transfer the previous account number into the current PF account number.
But in case of dual employment,
yeah, they can have two PF numbers, but there would only be one UN number. See, he's having two employments. In both the employments, he can have the same UN number, contribute against the same UN number. The account is one. See, for example, you're having a one bank account. Okay, that is the UN number. You can deposit from Bangalore, you can deposit from Chennai. Is there any restriction on that? No.
No.
Same dual Y1, there is no, you can have any number of employments parallelly. Though there are certain technical problems which come when the date of joining overlap, there would be questions asked by the department saying that how is that? Then you can always explain, I'm having two employments. I do a part-time in this for say 6 hours a day here and 6 hours a day here, or 1 day here, 1 day here. So you get contribution here as well as here.
Right.
If you're a consultant working in 5 different companies, all the 5 companies treat you as an employee and start paying their PF, then you will have 5 accounts, but UN should be one. All the 5 companies should only on that UN number. It gets consolidated there.
Thank you, sir. Rashmi, we can address the other questions in the community as a thing, whatever we can note it, and so we can save the time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So dear attendees, as you all know, again, we have extended the session for extra 25 minutes. So if we have taken up your extra time, so sorry for that.
Rashmi, here you can put my, what you call, number on screen. If anybody has real trouble for that, I am okay with that. You can put my number on the screen so that members are free to approach me directly.
Sure, sir. Sure, definitely.
So that it's basically grievance related, where if any member is finding it difficult either getting his settlement done or having any real issues with reference to his members' contributions, I'll be more than happy to help them.
Definitely.
Put out my number for them. You can, in the whatever manner you can do it. So if anybody wants to approach me, they can. Let them, when they approach, they can take your name, saying that references your webinar. So that I know who's calling or how he has come to know about my link. Okay? I'm okay with that.
Oh, great. Thank you so much, sir. So dear attendees, as you all just heard from Mr. K. Narayan, we will definitely take up your questions. We'll try our best to get the answers for you. There are various modes through which you can reach out to us. When is sir, like rightly mentioned, you can directly reach out to him. Just take our session name as greytHR Parichay session, and sir would be more than happy to help you out. Also, we have our own community called Grey Tribe, as you all can see on the screen. And also I have given the link of this community. So basically, Grey Tribe is a Q&A platform, knowledge sharing platform, which is an initiative of greytHR. Here, just like you and me, there are many HR peers who are part of this, and basically it's a Q&A forum. So if you have any questions related to the HR domain or statutory compliance, you can always post your questions here, and we also have many experts there, just like Mr. Narayan sir. You can put across your questions and get it answered. And also I would like to mention here, Ms. Bhuvana is also part of the community. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate, put it across right away, and we'll be more than happy to answer them out. All right. And as you can see, the link for this community Great Drive is already given here. So please do give it a try, and this is a completely free of cost sign up, so you don't have to worry about do I have to pay for it or anything. No, it's absolutely free. All right, so I think on this note, it's now time for us to end the session. And before I conclude it, I would like to thank our expert, Mr. K. Narayan, for being part of our today's session and for sharing all the important information. Thank you so much, sir.
It was a pleasure being on the platform. I hope I have answered to the satisfaction of all the participants. That's all I can say.
Yeah, definitely.
Great satisfaction. So a lot of questions have been addressed, a lot of concerns, like a lot of heads up you have given to the HR community, I would say. So this is more helpful to start with, and going forward, we will see as much as possible. We will keep on doing such similar sessions to address various issues. Thank you so much.
I'd also would like to thank our special moderator of today's session, Ms. Bhuvana Anand, for helping us share and gain the insights on EPF. And again, last but not the least, dear attendees, thank you for attending the session and for making it successful. I hope you found the session helpful and informative, and we'll be looking forward to see you in our upcoming sessions. Till then, stay safe, take care, and have a great time. And important announcement is this recording will be shared with all of you. All right, so not to worry at all. Soon in some time you will be getting the recorded session of this. All right, so on this note, I'm going to end the session. Thank you all once again.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. It was a great session. Thank you.